Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have quite the puzzle to put together when it comes to the 49ers roster. And how are the injuries shaping that? Plus, I know I said I wouldn't do it. I know I said I shouldn't do it, but I am a weak man and I got sucked back into something I said I wasn't going to do anymore. We'll explain it all on today's Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody?
Oh, hey, Rob, how you doing? See how I cut you off at the beginning because you cut me off at the end?
All right. That's not bad. Not gonna lie. That's not bad. Welcome to the Gold Standard Podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera alongside Levin Black. This is the show where we cut through the BS when it comes to the Niners because there is a lot of it out there. And sometimes people don't always tell you the truth. We promise we will on this show. Roster cutdown day is coming. The Niners have already started to trim some of the pieces off this roster. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about D winners, the state of the offensive line, a lot of things happening in 49ers land right now, Levin. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm definitely ready for real football. It's that point where, all right, last preseason game that nobody cares about, nobody actually does anything for. Kyle Shanahan has specifically said in the past that, man, pretty much all roster spots are already known by then. So it's the point where it's like, okay, can it be September yet?
Do you think that's like that this year, though? Do you think that applies with, potentially 8 new starters on defense and a lot of things up for grabs?
Probably a little bit less this year, just because, yeah, there's a lot more unknown with this roster than there was in previous years. But at the same time, those who have shown stuff have already shown it. And when you're talking, is this guy number 53 or number 54?
Right.
It rarely actually matters.
I think
Usually it depends on roster makeup and not actual merit of the player.
I think that most of the answers have already been decided because part of the decision is like, who do they play in this last game to preserve the roster that they want to have after that game is over? So it's sort of a weird thing. I still think there's maybe a couple things up, but I think they're making a lot of their big decisions right now. Look, it is dicey. They released Corey Kiner today. Kyle Shanahan said yesterday he had a pretty bad high ankle sprain, which, any high ankle sprain is at least a month. So if it's worse than that, remember, they carted him off. So he's, who knows when we're going to see him again. Now, he could still end up with the 49ers if he clears waivers, but right now anybody can clear him. But they're just in a spot, he's the example of like they can't sit around and wait for guys to get healthy because they have so many guys that are injured.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a weird year because there are so many injuries at a couple key positions. Do they end up keeping an extra player or two there and then hoping in a week or two they can then make a different cut? Say they have to keep a couple wide receivers right now, and then right before week 1, when other people have gotten back and are healthy, like Jennings and stuff, do they then cut some of them and try to get guys back that they were hoping didn't get picked up?
That's the weirdest part about all this is like nobody's going to be out for like, 2 months. We hope, it's all kind of short-term injuries. And so it's almost more difficult to deal with in a way, because sometimes like the injury situation will just shake itself out where like the answers become evident. Oh, this guy's going to be out 2 months. Great. We'll put him on PUP. We'll put him on IR. We'll do those things. With the Niners, it's like, well, this guy's day to day. This guy's week to week. So I think it makes it harder to sort of solve that Rubik's Cube.
It does. And that's, I think, probably the hardest part of the roster this year for Kyle Shanahan and maybe John Lynch. I don't know how much other people truly get a say on roster cuts. I think it's very heavily Kyle Shanahan. I would say this year it's probably Robert Saleh number 2, because he's probably going to get to decide some of the final people in on the defense. And maybe they throw, Boyer a bone or two and say, look, this guy we're kind of wanting to cut, but he's a big special teams guy that's been doing well. Is this a guy you think you need? You know what I mean? But who they cut this year, I think a lot of it is going to come down to what positions are healthy enough. I think they're going to get hamstrung to a certain degree on who they can cut.
I see what you did there.
I actually didn't do that on purpose. After I said it, I realized, but yeah.
After you said it, you were quite pleased with yourself. Waltony101 on Twitch says this roster is going to have some great future name a random 49er players. My God. I mean, they are 5 running backs down right now. Corey Kiner, Amir Abdullah, Isaac Arendo, Jordan James. It is unbelievable the injuries, the cluster injuries that they have had. Hell, Mac Jones is hurt now. We don't know if he's going to be around for week 1. Hello again, Nate Sudfeld. Time is a flat circle.
Yeah, I actually, because of the injuries, when I saw Brian Robinson was held out of the preseason game, it was like, now that's somebody I would give, a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick for, because he's somebody that you can get and all right, this can be our 3rd guy who may get, a little bit of time spelling the other 2. And Garendo is so injury prone and McCaffrey is so injury prone. If something happens to both of them, this is a guy that's been proven can take 200 plus carries in a season and not wear down. But then I looked and he has a base salary of over $3 million this year, which is what the Niners would inherit. And it's like, unless something happens to one of those top 2 in the next couple of weeks, I would rather just wait and hope he gets cut and then try to get him in.
And that is a huge factor this year, probably more than others, is the cost of those guys. I think, in the past, it might have been, well, we need them, we're getting them, and we'll deal with it. But now we're in the we'll deal with it phase of existence. And so that's not always the case. And as Proper 49er says, Isaac Rendo is back. So he was one of the injured guys. He's now back, at least for now. By the time I finish speaking this sentence, he may be hurt again. But as far as we know for right now, he is back. Daniel has a question that I think ties into something that you wanted to talk about, Levin. Daniel says, here's a question. In the YouTube episode, The Build, Kyle Shanahan says in a team meeting that he believes in, quote, building the callous. What the F does that mean? And do other teams do that? Could that be the curse? So if you didn't see The Build, Kyle's in his first team meeting with everybody, and he talks about wanting to do 3 days in a row of practice. They do a light day. The second day is like the heaviest day, and then they throttle down for the 3rd day. So it's like a gradual buildup, a peak, and then it goes back down again. And he really believes that that is the best way to do it. What is your reaction to that philosophy, Levin?
If that's not different than what he's been doing in previous years, then he's making a mistake. That's where I'm at with this. I have a hard time saying people practice too hard for the most part because the NFL restricts you so much. It's hard to truly practice too hard. And I am somebody that in a different sport, I believe the problem with pitchers getting injured all the time in baseball is because they're babied way too much. Like, I'm a firm believer in the reason they're always hurt is because you never let them build up their strength anymore. So I kind of take that into the NFL too. But at the same time, the 49ers have had so many injuries that if Kyle Shanahan hasn't changed his practice routine, then he needs to have his hands tied and forced to, because that's where it's at. Like, you need to change everything. You're constantly having injuries. You changed training staff. So now you got to look at what are we doing in terms of practicing in the facility, the services we offer, things like that to keep people healthy. And if Kyle hasn't changed anything in his practice habits, then Kyle needs to be forced to change.
There was a question about this in a mailbag column to Matt Barrows on The Athletic that you wanted me to mention too. If you're watching on the screen, you can see Barrows was asked, like, why are the 49ers so injured? And he wrote, Kyle Shanahan wants his players accustomed to the speed and intensity required in the regular season. He wants players to build what he calls, quote, a callus during training camp. Achieving that callus comes with a cost. That, at least, is my theory on why they have so many injuries each summer. They're being pushed harder than most teams. Do you agree with that?
I think at this point, that is the most likely culprit. And that's why they should be changing. Build it up slowly. Unfortunately, the best analogy is the pitchers. You don't just have a pitcher come in from the offseason and have him throwing 100 plus pitches. No, in spring training, they get an inning, then they get 2 innings, and they get 3 innings, and they kind of build up their strength. I think if they're coming into training camp and Kyle has this old school mentality of, well, it's on you to be in shape, and I'm going to bust your ass to get you in shape if you're not in training camp, and you're constantly having all these injuries, especially all the soft tissue injuries, then change it. Because I don't think there's any argument. The only reason why the Niners have missed the playoffs since 2018 is due to injuries. Every other time, it is not, or they've made the playoffs even despite injuries in some seasons. And then last year, you can easily argue it was the injuries that held them back. I think there were some other things going on there, but I think they probably would have made the playoffs if they were an average health team. In 2018, obviously Jimmy Garoppolo, think other injuries happened. You have the 2020 season with a ton of injuries. If they were healthy, they have probably been making the playoffs every single year for 8 years straight now. So change it. Like, if you have not changed, then that's on you for not looking in the mirror.
It's interesting. Everything Barrows says makes sense, but also Tim Kawakami was talking about this on Twitter, and he kind of said something that rang true for me, which was, if this is so devastating to a team, how are the 49ers able to make these incredible late season runs in 2021 and 2022? If the practicing was constantly wearing them down, how have they been so good at a point in the season when most teams do wear down? Now, I don't know. Do they throttle down practices in those years at the end of the season? I have no idea, but I thought it was a fair point that Tim made.
I think there's two different. He's talking about one thing, and there's a different type of wear down. When you are out of shape or trying to get back into things, if you go full bore right away, you get a lot of hamstring injuries. You get a lot of ankle injuries. You can have your knee get damaged because you haven't gotten used to all the cutting and turning and think that takes time to build up. So I think there's a difference here between late season wearing down and early season wearing down. Early season is you come in and you go too hard, too fast, and people get a lot of soft tissue injuries, which then can also make them, they're compensating for some of those, which then leads to other injuries that are more serious. Some of it is obviously bad luck, but you can't control somebody breaking a bone, for instance. But there are studies that show that, yes, ACL injuries, there are some indicators to show that it's more likely to happen for certain people, depending on what has happened. Like if you have a hamstring injury, you're compensating using your knee more, and you're more likely to cause an injury to your knee because of that and things like that. So all these soft tissue things that are being caused by going too hard early in the season or in the training camp could lead to the more serious injuries that are also happening. But then end of season is more about just straight up conditioning. You know what I mean? Your 90% is better than another guy's 90% because they're wore out and you don't fully recover in the NFL in between the games. So I think there's two different things that they're talking about there. The Niners can be better equipped to keep pushing through a wall late in the season when everybody's exhausted, but also be getting more injuries up front because of how hard they go right out of the gate.
I like what Jason said yesterday. The Niners just decided to get all their injuries out of the way now, and they'll be totally healthy once the regular season comes. That's the story.
There's an easy argument, though, to push back on Kyle. Like, would you rather have a callous built up and have 15 guys on IR or down 5 starters, so to speak, each week? Or would you rather be having no callous and guys are a little bit worse off, but you only have one starter out a week? You know what I mean? You only have 3 guys on IR. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Kyle is, if he is still not changed anything with his practice habits, which we've never gotten confirmation one way or the other, but it seems like he hasn't, because they're still, like Barrows just said this week, that he goes really hard. He believes in full speed practices to simulate game situations. And that's the unique part about Kyle's practices, is that he wants them going as fast as they would in a game, which means that your collisions at the line are harder. Your running back going through the hole is going at full speed, things like that. But I feel like there's a chance here for Kyle to take some ownership and I don't think he has. So, but again, we're talking about something that nobody's quite asked him. Like, that's a question I would love for him to be asked. Have you changed your practice routine to try to compensate and not have so many injuries at the start of camp like you've had? And make him answer it.
I don't know for sure if they have or if they haven't. I know that, like, when you hear Kyle talk about it, in terms of the length of practice and the number of plays in practice, they really do try and structure a 3-day thing. So it's not like going from 0 to 80 miles per hour. They try and ease into it. I don't know. I know that Kyle said yesterday that because of all the injuries, they haven't even really had the kind of training camp that they want to have because they've just had so many injuries and cluster injuries, running back, wide receiver, and now offensive line, where both starting guards are hurt. Now, Ben Barch is wearing some sort of robotic arm that he's going to apparently try and play with. That's very reassuring. Dominic Pooney has what they're calling a knee strain. I think it's a PCL injury. He may be able to play week 1, maybe not. So now they're in a scary situation on the offensive line, Levin, to the point where I don't know if you heard, but John Feliciano called into 95.7 the game and literally was like, sign me. Here's Feliciano.
I'm retired for about 27, 28 teams.
Oh,
There's a handful of teams that I would love to come back to. Really, San Francisco is definitely number one. I mean, Kyle, John, and Firster, they supported me every step that I had to take last year, and I would love nothing more than to make it up to them and come back and help it out.
Now, normally I would be like, I don't know, John Feliciano, you retired, but you know what? With the state of the roster, I'm like Jim Carrey and Dumb and Dumber.
pick him up.
Sure, John. Hop on in, partner.
I would personally sign him. I think going into the season, the position group that I'm most concerned about, other than safety, safety is just in a class of its own because there's literally nobody proven there, is offensive line. And what I've been seeing in preseason makes me more worried with every single snap. The Raiders game, they tried to run that outside stretch, like pitch run, and every single time it got absolutely destroyed because the offensive line was getting beat. Like, you had the guard getting his guy on the interior beat so fast that the defensive tackle was able to get in the backfield and make the running back go a little bit deeper and try to get a little more outside. And at the same time, the offensive tackle that was pulling wasn't getting out to the edge and setting the edge well enough. Like, the entire offensive line looks like complete shit when it comes to that. And that's one of the signature plays. Like, you can't go into the season saying, well, we can't run this to the right ever, but if we get Trent Williams, we'll be able to run it to the left and be okay. Like, you can't be so dependent on one offensive lineman being healthy. And from what I've seen, and there were multiple times that they ran that when they still had the starting offensive end, and it got absolutely blown up immediately. So I have very big concerns about being able to run that to the right, even with the starters in.
They could not run block well at all over the weekend. It was rough. I had the same thought. Corey Kiner had really the only good run, and then of course was immediately carted off because we can't have nice things in San Francisco. Ryan Aloy says, listen, guys, don't worry. Kyle already said he'll look into it. End of discussion. Well done, Ryan. I appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat. I like, there was another comment here that basically, Drew Moss and Connor Colby might show promise. Yeah, here it is. Stephen Duckett. I like Colby and Moss, but I think they need more time before getting thrust into starting. You don't really have a choice at this point. I think one of them is probably going to start. Maybe it's Connor Colby. And it's scary because those guys were kind of taken to be, I don't want to say project, but, they needed to sort of polish them up a little bit before they wanted to use them. And now it's out of the frying pan into the fire, most likely.
This is by far the most I am under the mindset of the Niners better be watching roster cuts and bringing multiple people in from other teams. They should be looking at wide receiver cuts and bringing somebody in. They should be looking at offensive line cuts and bringing in at least one guy because their backups are horrendously bad. There's no point of keeping we can keep Burford. At least he's been here. No, you might as well take a flyer on somebody else's garbage because Burford is not going to be able to hold up. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't care that somebody's been here and knows the offense if you know they're going to fail if they're needed anyways. If you know that they can't hold up, you might as well bring in somebody else because there have been tons of examples in NFL history where one team lets somebody go and then he blossoms with somebody else.
to be fair to Burford, he looked better in week 2 of the preseason than he did in week 1. However, he looked so bad in week 1, it would be hard not to look better in week 2. So I will say that. Foot asks, Robin Levin, have you adjusted your record predictions for the 49ers? And if so, what should be done if they fail to meet those expectations? I have not. Here's the thing with the injuries, Foot. There are a lot of them, but how many of them would really impact the line of a game, for an example? Like, how impactful what's the most impactful injury the 49ers have right now at this moment?
Probably Jennings. Unless Bosa's neck soreness is a real thing that flares up.
Well, he was back at practice yesterday. So
I know, but you know what I mean? That's the type of thing, like, he gets jammed one time and...
Hey, that's enough for that. Don't you speak that evil on here. It's enough. But that's kind of my point, is like, it's Jawan Jennings, the guy that didn't even have 1,000 yards last year. Like, I think we'll be okay. That's not moving the line in a game. Knock on wood right now, I haven't seen any of these injuries to be like, oh, I really need to. Now, if it was Brock or God forbid Christian McCaffrey or something like that, then I would. But Foot says Brandon Ayuk, but like, I already knew Brandon Ayuk was going to miss half the year. So
there are multiple people that bring up the sneaky and probably the correct answer here. It's Kevin Givens, because he's the only trustworthy 3-tech that they have.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to Davis now for that. And it's just Collins is not going to be ready enough. He's kind of progressing slowly. But Givens is the type of injury that we may be looking in week 3 going, good God, they can't stop the run because all they're doing is running right to where Kevin Givens would have been.
They're running right at poor Alfred Collins, who hopefully will get there, but is not there yet. I did want to say one thing that I forgot to mention when you were talking before. Kyle mentioned the build the callous thing. Jim Harbaugh literally used that exact phrase all the time when he was the coach of the Niners. Has used it with Michigan and with the Chargers. He's a believer in that too. That basically, like, you have to just build it up. You have to go through the pain early to be able to withstand it later on. Other teams have a lot of injuries too. It's not like the 49ers are the only ones. But look, we know the context with the Niners. They're hurt year after year after year. Ryan,
speaking of that, we've talked about how this was going on before Kyle Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to grab the screenshot of where the source came from. I think it was an ESPN article, but I'm not 100% sure, and I didn't find it in the 10 minutes I was looking before we came on. But they did list like the 49ers history in terms of where they ranked in terms of like value lost, which they try to, there's a formula for that because they try to take into account whether it's a starter or a backup, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Niners were top 10 in all but 2 years since 2014.
Yeah, it's crazy. Even at the quarterback position, I'm trying to see if I have the stat still. I had it saved. Yeah. 3 years with a quarterback starting a full season since 2014. Even at that one position, they haven't had a ton of injury luck. So yes, it's obviously incredibly frustrating. Ryan Alloy says Dominic Pooney's injury could alter things, but he's, may play in week 1. This is not like he's going to be out for 2 months, 3 months type of thing. If it was, that would be a scarier thing. But at least for what we know right now, and we all know that can change, but it doesn't seem to be one of those injuries. It's just an incredibly frustrating situation, and we'll all continue to see how it shakes out. Let's try and spin things a little more positively, Levin. Let's talk about some good
luck
going on with the 49ers. Well, you texted me and you said you were very happy with D Winters and how he's coming out. Let's talk about that.
He has looked like everything you hoped he would look like. He is flying around. He's looking like a Dre Greenlaw, somebody that his vision may not be the best, but there are plays consistently where you go, oh, that was Fred Warner. Oh, wait, no, that was not Fred Warner. That was D Winters, because he gets there so quick and he has like an oomph when he hits that usually you're used to seeing that being Warner. So you just like, you see the flash of speed and the way he hits, and it's a linebacker, and you're thinking that's Warner. And you're like, wait, no, this is preseason. Warner's not playing. Oh, that was Winters. He's done that in both games, and especially this last one. There were, I think, 3 plays early on when he was in the game where I was like, whoa, who was that? Oh, it was Winters.
Getting there fast is only half the battle, because Nick Martin gets there fast. The difference is getting there under control. Winters and Martin can both get there fast what has plagued D in the past and what is hurting Nick Martin now is they were out of control when they got there. They couldn't stop. They couldn't adjust. D Winters now, finally, I think he's seeing things in front of him better. So then he's able to use his speed as more of a weapon as opposed to having to use it to make up for not being able to diagnose what's happening in front of him. So if he can put that together and you have D Winters and you have Fred Warner and you have a defensive line, which hopefully will be better. And the stuff I've seen from Robert Saleh 11, I'm loving what Saleh is doing scheme-wise. Even in the preseason, I think that this defense could be better than people think early on. I think it might actually be like something that can be relied upon once in a while to keep things close.
I think it has a strong chance of being top 10 defense. Part of that is the schedule. But I do think they have some depth problems that, I mean, they're already at their limit with defensive tackle injuries with Kevin Givens. But if they can stay relatively healthy there, I think this is a defense that the defensive line and the linebackers, that front seven, should be able to prevent enough stuff and give opportunities to the DBs to make playmaker type plays, get the turnovers. And that's partially because I think the linebackers are going to be able to fill the gaps faster than maybe any other pair of linebackers in the league, is assuming that the top two stay healthy. And you have a pass rush that is going to be able to get after the quarterback, and that leads to turnovers because you either get a sack, which pretty much is like a turnover. It ends the drive a lot of the time, or you're going to be getting a forced fumble or an interception because the quarterback is being rushed and thrown out of rhythm. So I think this is a defense that has a chance to have one of those years, which we haven't really had with this team, of a bunch of turnovers. And if they have that, they can give up yards and they'll be okay. But I also think that they have a strong chance of not giving up the yards because that front seven is so good. It means if your front seven is good enough, I think they can limit the fact that their interior defensive line might be giving up some runs by having those linebackers fill so quickly. And once you limit the run, now it's a lot easier for Nick Bosa and Huff and hopefully Williams from the inside to get off the ball and get the sacks.
I didn't do an instant reaction until Monday this week because I went to the baseball game and it just didn't happen. But my hot take in that instant reaction show was that sneakily the way the Niners beat the Raiders is the way they never beat teams last year, 11. It was the defense and the special teams that won them that game. The Niners kicked field goals on every possession in the second half, and the defense did not allow the Raiders to get into the end zone and forced 2 turnovers. The defense and not only did they close the game, which God knows the 49ers could not close the game last year to save their lives, but they did it with the 2 sides of the ball or the 2 areas of the game that were their weakest last year. And I was like, holy crap. Like, I don't know if anybody noticed that, but this is a big change for that team.
Speaking of Dumb and Dumber, and now I'm forgetting the exact quote, but the Jake Moody thought I had immediately when he made the game-winning kick was that Dumb and Dumber line right at the end when, he goes up to, I think it's Lloyd talking, and he says, just when I have counted you out, you go and redeem yourself. You know what I mean?
You just butchered one of the most
I did. I cannot remember the words right now. I remembered it at the time because I literally heard Harry saying it to Lloyd in my head when I was watching it. But I was at the point when he missed the field goal. I was like, done. Cut him immediately after the game. But now he made a 58-yard game-winning field goal. The amount of confidence that could give him, you keep him around.
Just when I think you can't get any dumber, you go and do something like this and completely redeem yourself. That's the line. It's like the most famous line from the movie, yet you didn't remember it. I'll never let you forget that.
I will say, when I was a kid and that movie came out, that final scene I hated as a child because, you're a child and they had the chance to get on a bus with a bunch of bikini models. And I was like, how could they pass that? And then as an adult, I came to appreciate the joke. a little bit more. But I remember for like a long time that final scene, I hated when that scene came on because it frustrated me. Because my 9-year-old self, when the movie came out, was thinking, you just passed up the best job there is.
Well, actually, the original script called for them to get on the bus. And I
Yeah.
believe it was Jim Carrey that said, no, that's the whole point of the movie, that they're too stupid to realize. Benjamin says Moody's job security is only as good as his last kick. It does seem like that when you've missed 10 the previous season. So a little behind the scenes, 11. I was at the Mets game with Jason and my son, and we're watching the Niners game on my phone during the Mets game. And Moody misses the kick, and Jay spends the next 3 innings just ripping Jake Moody to shreds. To anyone that is sitting around, they heard 3 straight innings of Jake Moody stinks, how they waste a top 100 pick on the kicker. Like, he just went to town.
I mean, I said it when they drafted him. Like, I get why they drafted him. I'm just of the opinion I will sign the veteran. The extra money spent on a kicker is a drop in the bucket. You're talking about getting a quality veteran costing you an extra $1 million or $2. It's not a big deal. But I would rather get the proven vet that I know is going to be reliable. He wouldn't be phenomenal because that's why he's available, but he'll be reliable. Like Robbie Gould was reliable, but he was limited past 50 yards. There's a caveat to these veteran kickers a lot of times. Same with Phil Dawson. He was coming off some down years. Cleveland moved on from him, but then he redeemed himself. I guess that's the theme of this episode. But I would rather go that route because the amount of kickers who have been drafted and actually succeeded, I would love to see the data on this. Somebody compile it, but I would bet, because it's kicking has been an interest of mine, so I pay attention when a kicker is drafted. I would bet their hit or miss is higher than your first and second round picks, which I know you're drafting after the first or second, but you're taking the number one kicker on the board when you're drafting one. Let's face it. But I would bet that they succeed less often than other top picks for their position. And that just, it's pointless to me. And I wrote the article a couple of years ago about how rookie kickers struggle. Even the greatest kickers in history have struggled as rookies. So I don't understand why you're going through that, because if you draft him, he's going to struggle year one. And then if he does figure it out and he pans out, which you have a less than 50-50 shot of that happening, you're looking at having to pay the guy in 3 years. So what's the point? Like, you're not really saving much money. Like the potential return on value is minuscule. Ooh, we saved an extra $1 million this year by drafting that really good rookie kicker. Like, what's the point?
Like, the 49ers are weird when it comes to money and rookie contracts. Kyle Shanahan literally, again, yesterday tried to pass off this narrative that, we knew we had to get a rookie quarterback in 2021. It's like, no, you didn't. You tried to trade for Matt Stafford. And then when you didn't get Stafford, you made the draft pick trade. But then even after you made that trade, you tried to get Aaron Rodgers, who was not on a rookie contract. So, they're just weird when it comes to some of their philosophies and who they want in a rookie contract and when. The kicker thing is going to be dicey all year long. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be dicey. And I just hope that maybe Jake Moody can gain some confidence. Now, he didn't gain confidence after the game winner against the Bucs last year, but maybe it's different this year. He's got the new windup. We'll have to see.
Kyle and John have one consistent philosophy when it comes to quarterback and a lot of positions, honestly, and it's pivot, because that's what they do all the time. They're constantly pivoting. Like you said, they came in knowing they needed to get a quarterback. They tried to trade for Tom Brady right away. Bill Belichick laughed them off, but then they got Jimmy Garoppolo. They were wanting to go to Kirk Cousins, but now they had Jimmy Garoppolo. They were forced to pay him, so they pivoted to paying Jimmy Garoppolo. Then Jimmy Garoppolo had injuries and wasn't quite the same when he returned. He kind of lost his confidence. So then they're pivoting to, we needed to get a surefire veteran. Like you said, they looked into Stafford. Well, they really wanted Stafford, thought they were getting him. They looked into Aaron Rodgers. Then they pivoted to, no, we need to get a top pick of a quarterback, and we will spend, all our time, and Kyle will handpick his guy. And then they pivoted to, well, maybe we won't play the rookie. We can't afford to lose games. This is a championship team. To pivoting once again to, no, we need to play this guy, to then pivoting to Purdy. You know what I mean? Like, that's all they've done. Like, they constantly are pivoting when it comes to the quarterback position.
It doesn't seem like they can execute a plan from beginning to end. And look, we know stuff happens in the NFL, right? Like you do have to adjust, but sometimes it seems like they adjust too quickly. They
Well,
traded.
just count it up. Like, how many quarterbacks have Kyle and John pursued as their potential franchise quarterback? You got Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, Kirk before that.
Well, yeah, I was gonna do Jimmy Garoppolo and Tom Brady. They pursued. Then Kirk was if we can't get them, that's 3 already. Now you're gonna throw in Trey Lance, and you got Brock Purdy. You got them calling Aaron Rodgers. You're at 6 quarterbacks. This is what they've gone 9 years, and there's been 6 quarterbacks. They've kicked the tire. Well, I shouldn't say kicked. They've literally looked into and tried to see if they could find a price that was agreeable to all those quarterbacks.
Did you include Stafford in there? I don't even remember.
I did not. I forgot Stafford. So 7. There's 7 quarterbacks in 9 years that they've never had a plan at quarterback. The first time that they've had a concrete plan at quarterback is giving Brock Purdy this contract.
Well, then you thought that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be their plan at quarterback because they gave him the contract too. That was one of the.
But even then, in retrospect, they've talked about it where they've said that Kyle was, in mourning about not being able to get Kirk Cousins because of what Jimmy Garoppolo showed. And then they felt like because of what he had done and how the team had rallied around him, they were forced to give him that record contract. It wasn't that they were like, yes, we got our guy. This is what we're doing. It was like, well, he did so good and the team really loves him. We don't really have a choice here. You know what I mean? Like they weren't fully bought in. I don't think Kyle Shanahan was ever 100% bought in on Jimmy Garoppolo, which is why it's so ridiculous they refused to let him go for so long.
Oh, Luis Aguilar says we forgot Brian Hoyer. But yeah, I think Hoyer was more of like we need someone he was the sacrificial lamb.
I would put CJ Beathard more as potential franchise quarterback before Brian Hoyer, but I don't think either one of them was ever brought in where they're going, this guy is our franchise quarterback. It was, well, we need somebody for both of those.
Hoyer was more, we need someone to teach everybody else the system. He knew the system. They knew they were going to be bad. So I feel kind of bad for Brian Hoyer, excuse me. But nonetheless, the biggest reminder of all that, of course, is Saturday is coming when Trey Lance comes back to Levi's. He's going to play for the Chargers. It would have been amazing if we had Trey Lance against Mac Jones, right? Trey Lance with a different team against Mac Jones on the 49ers. Like, oh my God, can you imagine? Twitter would have absolutely exploded. Now Mac Jones is hurt. He's not going to play. So that's not going to be a thing. But yeah, the Trey Lance thing it's unbelievable. Just when people finally stopped talking about Trey Lance, here he comes again.
I don't care. Like, that's not one of the thoughts I have going into that game. I don't, but I get why you bring it up, but I'm so over it. In fact, I'm so over it that my kid looking around in the office found the Trey Lance flag, like, one of those triangle pendants. I bought it after he was drafted and it never got put up because he was never actually given the starting role really. But they found it because it got folded up amongst like random papers and stuff in the office. And my kid was like, Daddy, did you see what we found? And I was like, yeah, the flag. She was like, yeah, you got to put it up. You got to put it up downstairs. And I was like, yeah, no, that one's not going up. That guy's not on the team anymore. She goes, oh, well, now you need to get a new one. Like, no, I don't see myself introducing curse anymore. Like, I'm not buying stuff of a quarterback anymore.
Speaking of things we're over, Levin, Matt Mayoko.
Yeah.
Jacob Cowing did not practice. He appeared to sustain a lower body injury in practice Tuesday. His condition is not immediately known. You know what, Jacob Cowing? I'm done fighting for you, man. I'm done. You got hurt on the first play of the first practice of the year. You come back, practice for like a half a minute. Now you're hurt again. I'm all set. Adios, man. Like, part of the reason the 49ers keep having these injuries is because they stick with these guys that have consistently been hurt. Sorry, Jacob. You've never done it. Out. I'm done waiting for you. I am finished now. Sorry.
Yeah, it's let me guess. It's going to end up being another like non-serious soft tissue style injury.
Hurt guys get hurt, man. That's it. He's got to go. What are we waiting for here? Sorry. I know it's not, part of my anger is just at all the injuries they've had, but damn, man. Come on. We're sitting here. Oh, God. I don't know what to do, Levin. I'm at my wit's end.
No, there's nothing we can do. That's the problem. That's the feeling of helplessness really set in after that Super Bowl loss. And that's what I was in all of last year. And I'm hoping this season goes better because I would like to have some kind of positivity again.
Nick Wagner says no 49ers returned from injury at today's practice. Trent Williams was back, but he wasn't hurt. He was resting. Jacob Cowing and Malik Turner not practicing. Malik Turner, you're only on the team because you're there for other people that got hurt. Deep breaths.
Kyle better get some pads on.
I mean, at this point, yeah, we need you to suit up, man. I was saying, like, I'm available, but, I don't know that a 5'10", 140-pound guy is going to help anything. But cheese and rice, they can't do any football, period, without losing somebody. Have they had a practice this season where everybody that started the practice ended the practice?
I mean, I would pay to see you get one snap in practice.
You just want to see me get hit by somebody.
Yeah, you got to go against Lenore.
God, I mean, I can't wait to see them on the field. In actuality, I really like the corners on this team. Lenore, Green, who's now back also, Stout, Chase Lucas even looks like he might be a solid contributor. Like, I was really kind of worried about the corners, and that might be the one spot where I'm like, sort of feel a little better.
They're definitely the position group that has changed the narrative the most in training camp. Like, they've all been doing so well that you don't really talk about them because they're so good. It's not a concern. You're talking about the wide receivers, you're talking about the interior defensive line, you're talking about the safeties, and you're talking about the offensive line.
Sorry, I just saw this comment from Heineman on Twitch who says, I bet Stas could moss Tig Brown. Poor Tig might not make the team.
I don't care who makes the team. If somebody sucks in the regular season, move the heck on. I do not want another Campbell situation. I do not care to see that. I don't care to see, another corner that was brought in and is just given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity while getting destroyed every time. Like, if a guy is getting toasted constantly, cut them and bring somebody else in. The NFL is a league full of people who could have had quality careers that just never quite got the opportunity. So go find the guy on the street and give him a chance, because once somebody's proven they can't do it on the field, I don't care to keep them. There's no point.
I agree. And at this point, what are your options? Like, what are you desperately clinging to? Like, let's go here, churn it through. I just want them to have, this is my goal now. Forget Super Bowl, forget playoffs, forget division title. My goal is simply this. I would like the 49ers to do football and have everyone that starts doing the football finish doing the football without getting hurt. Is that too much to ask in 2025?
I just want some actual, high moments this season. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like last year, and we talked a little bit about it during the season last year. I haven't talked about it in a while, but it was like there was never a game where the game ended and you were sitting there smiling. Every game was like, even like the early win, it was like, whew, they win, but that sucked. And I think there was an injury in the game, if memory serves. So you were kind of like, it was kind of bittersweet. And then so many of the games were just like, God, this team keeps falling apart at the end. This team keeps having these special teams blunders that cost them victories. And it was just a season of not a single time did a 49ers game end. And I was sitting there smiling like, man, I can't wait for the rest of this week because I'm going to be sitting on cloud 9. Like, they never reached cloud 9. They reached like cloud 3 at best.
Yeah, I mean, even game one, it was, wait, Christian McCaffrey's not going to play?
Right.
What happened? And then Aaron Banks got hurt in the third quarter or something like that too. So yeah, you're right. We never just had one of those like feel good wins. It was always like, yeah, we won, but oh, well, maybe it'll be different this year. just get me to week 1. Put me in a time warp, cryogenically freeze me, whatever needs to be done. But I just they just need to cancel all practices before the Chargers game. Or before the Seahawks game. I feel like just cancel, just do walkthroughs from now until then, because they have proven now if they do something else, they're losing somebody.
Just make it we were doing walkthroughs with 1s and 2s, and then 3s get to hit each other because they're still trying to prove themselves,
Well, that just took my smile, but we don't know
you're welcome.
We don't know the severity. We'll find out. Well, I don't know. Kyle spoke yesterday, so I don't know if we'll find out what's up with Jacob Cowing, but
can't trust him even if you do. So
that's right. Yeah. Even if he's back tomorrow, he'll be gone the day after that. So you're right.
No, I mean, you can't trust what Kyle says. Remember, it was a non-serious injury with Christian McCaffrey until suddenly he was out week 1.
Then it became bilateral Achilles tendonitis, and then he's flying to Germany. Well, even Michael Williams, right? Oh, Michael Williams will be out a week. Well, Monday was 12 days, which is basically twice as long as we initially thought it was going to be. And guess what? He's out this week too. So don't expect to see him this week. Don't expect to see CJ West. He's probably not going to play in the opener too. They're saying he got the same injury as Michael. It's going to be 2-3 weeks. So yeah, you're right. I mean, we knew that you can't trust it, and we got more confirmation of that this year.
Yeah, Kyle is probably the least honest head coach when it comes to injuries in the league, because I think other teams just don't say anything. The Niners will say something, and then it will be a complete bold-faced lie.
And then they get mad when you call them on it, and you're like, "That's not what you said." You're like, "Whoa!" They get all bent out of shape about it. Like we're the idiots for saying, "Hey, you told us a different thing before, and we want to know why there's a difference." They get all mad about it. Sean Turner says Cowing is Rob's size. Go figure. How dare you, Sean Turner? I'm taller than Jacob Cowing.
You're taller. That's probably the only thing.
That's all I have. Okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, he's got what, like 30, 40 pounds on you despite being shorter?
Let me have this, Levin. I need it. Okay. I need this for me. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're live every single weekday. We will have an instant reaction show this weekend, right after the game. I promise you. Last week was just a once in a summer situation. So don't worry about that. I got a lot of your messages saying we were looking for you after the game. We missed you. I apologize. It won't happen again. Are you going to join me for the instant reaction show after the game?
I should be able to for this final preseason game.
Hey!
And thankfully, I actually have no idea if they do. I'm just assuming because it's 8:30 at night. Thankfully, the Mets do not play at the same time.
Why?
That means we can have an instant reaction.
I don't understand. What do the Mets have to do with anything?
Because that's why we didn't have one last time.
Oh, it wasn't the Mets. It was the Mariners. Blame the Mariners, not the Mets. So you're sure you're going to be able to join?
Yes.
Good. All right. Good.
Because it's Saturday night, so I'll be home.
All right. Because we haven't had one this year, I don't believe.
No, we have not.
Whose fault is that?
Both of ours.
Yours. It's your fault. I was here for the first one. Where were you?
I could have done the same.